Hello everybody, this is Jack Dennis and welcome to our Jack Dennis Fly Fishing channel on YouTube. We're going to be talking saltwater here in the next few segments as we're going to be featuring Volume 2 of Jimmy Nix tying saltwater flies. We did feature Volume 1, which included a lot of great bonefish patterns, but now we're going to the bigger fish. The fish that are sometimes as big as you are, tarpon and beyond. So Jimmy, maybe you don't know who he is, but Jimmy was one of the leading tyers 30 years ago to come up with innovating both bass and saltwater patterns. I really think you're going to enjoy taking a look back at where saltwater fly fishing came from and tying, and enjoy some scenes from Belize. But have fun with my friend Jimmy. It was only happened 30 years ago, but it's still timeless.
Flash. This time we're going to tie this fly in a chartreuse color, but we also fish two other colors, a pink and of course a burnt orange. Marabou blood feathers to match the color. Hackle, taxidermy eyes, anywhere from a 5 to 8 millimeter according to the size of the hook you're using. You can use amber or red. 15-pound hard mason monofilament as a weed guard. And we'll use flat wax thread to tie the fly. The first thing I'll do, you can see it got a little bend in the hook. So I'll take the hook and grab it with good fishing pliers and just put a little bend in there. Almost all bend backs and all bonefish plies, if I want that hook point to ride up, the first thing I do is put a little bend in that hook, and it really helps. Put a jam knot right behind the eye of the hook. Clip off that tag in. And we'll wrap thread a little bit past the bend of the hook. Not much. And then back up to the point of the hook. Take a little piece of just one plume of marabou and come down about halfway and just clip out the stem. That way when you pull this all together, you got all moving marabou and no stem. You get a lot more action. We'll clip this off right where I cut it, hold this bunch, put a loose wrap, and tighten down. Again, we'll hold that marabou off of the hook shank and tie it right down on the top of that hook shank, and come back forward to our original tie-in area. Now we want this about 1.5 times the hook shank length, so I'll just pull it forward to measure it. And again, instead of cutting it, I'll just break it off with my thumbnail. Now I'll tie in 2 hackle feathers, one on each side. And these are the capons that I use for tarpon, so they're nice and webby. But these are the feathers that are a little too thin for tarpon feathers, so I use them for my redfish flies. And we'll hold them up there just about the same length as the marabou, and we'll bring our scissors in here right at our tie-in point and clip both of them off at one time. Get rid of the excess barb. Hold them one on each side and tie them in with loose wraps. Stay away from that hook point because it's sharp. I've already sharpened the hook. Now we'll just overwrap it with thread. Nice thread base, and then we'll come forward a little bit. Cement this area real good with Flex cement. And we want to put it back there too far because we don't want that Flex cement to wick into the marabou. And just cement that whole thread base now. Okay, we'll take an epoxy eye, and again I'll take my little Xeron pliers, and I use the width of my little Xeron pliers. It looks like about 1/8 of an inch, but it's not that critical. And we'll just bend the wire, and then we'll come in here and cut it off. And we want to cut it off where it extends back to our tie-in area of the marabou. And it'll be about 1/3 the hook shank length behind the eye of the hook. And we'll just hold it right on the side. I'm just going to put it in there real loose to start with, but I want it kind of right up on top of the shank of the hook. I'll tie the other one in the same distance from the eye. And again, we want both of them right on top of the hook shank. Lace them in and then pull them to each side. Come up here between the eyes and we'll X them with thread. And again, you just adjust them as you go. I always use my fingernails. I swear that's the best fly tying tool a fly tier's got. And again, we'll just X them with thread. Okay, we'll flip our vise upside down. Take some 15-pound monofilament and cut off a piece a couple of inches long. Now we'll just double these back as such and just form a little loop. Now the reason we're doing it this way is because we're going to let the natural curve of the monofilament help us in making this weed guard. Put it on the bottom of the hook shank, hold it together a couple of wraps, and again, just adjust it as you go. Be sure, just wiggle it, be sure it's right on top of that hook shank. Bind it down going back real good. Bring our little cutters in here. And overwrap the butt of the monofilament. Come back up, pull the loop up, and tie right in front of it. And don't worry about all this buildup of thread because it's not important on this fly. And we just force that monofilament up straight. Come in here with our clippers, clip it in the middle, cut it where it's about 1.5 times the hook gape. Separate these two little pieces of monofilament and a couple of X's in between. When you get that weed guard exactly in the V you want it, saturate that tie-in area with Flex Mint. Okay, turn my fly over again and cut a length of Mylar braid. And this is pearl that's dyed the specific color. Tie it right on top of the hook shank. Come back to about the barb of the hook. You're going to have to take it easy because we got a lot of stuff sticking around. And come all the way to the front and back of where you want to tie off. Okay, now we'll just wrap this area forward. Going back to the weed guard, now in front of the weed guard. Now we're going to build up a little diamond shape. We'll cross between the eyes, come around the hook shank, and go to the opposite side. I come around underneath, X through, over the top, back the other direction. Behind the eye, and a couple of times we're just building this area up. In a little diamond shape. And just force that in there. Pull that little eye back. And you can just mash that flat. It forms a nice little diamond. Okay, when you got it where you want it, we'll check the bottom. Bottom looks good. Bring it up, tie it off. And pull that braid where we can get a nice tie-in. Clip it off. Tie off a little head. Now let's do another whip finish. That one slipped out of my hand. There again, the neat thing about fly tying is you can always go back and do it again. And we'll saturate that head area with Flexament. Okay, at this point, this little fly can be fished. A lot of times I'll put a real thin coat of epoxy if I want this fly to last a long time. But it doesn't make any difference whether you put epoxy or don't put epoxy. You can fish it right now, and I'll guarantee you redfish absolutely love it.